Episode 1 of Hanna kicks off in Romania circa 2003. An ex-CIA agent, Eric Heller, leaves his house at exactly 2 a.m. He stops his car, discards the keys, and walks to a heavily fortified building. He's able to get into the building with his ID, but then he has to sneak into a locker room to steal another person's ID to have access to the whole place. And with access to the entire building, he makes his way to a room with a bunch of newborn babies, and he takes one of them. As he's trying to get out of the building, he ends up getting caught by 3 guys, but he makes quick work of them, including throwing one into a fire. He is able to escape, and he's evading gunshots, and then he hands the baby off to a woman who is waiting by a car in the woods, and the two are able to get away. They stay at a motel, but the next morning, Eric sees somebody show up that he recognizes, and he frantically escapes. He's able to hotwire a vehicle and get away just in the nick of time as she's firing gunshots off at him. They don't know if they were able to get away or not until that same woman returns on a helicopter, and she tells the pilot to light him up, which forces Eric to go off-road into the woods. And he is able to lose the helicopter, but he gets to one part of the woods where it's open plains, and he knows that if he can get over this field, he'll be good to go, but that's easier said than done because once he starts driving on the field, the helicopter sees him one more time and starts firing at him. And this causes Eric to crash the car, and the woman inside dies on impact. As the woman who is chasing them instructs the helicopter to touch down so she can see if anybody survived, the car explodes. But Eric was able to survive, and he was able to escape along with the baby. Now we fast forward to 2019, where Eric has trained this child at the age of 16 to become an absolute killing machine. And of course, the child is named Hanna. The two have been living in the forest ever since that day where the car blew up, and Eric has been homeschooling Hanna, teaching her multiple languages along with geography and even some pop culture stuff. But the biggest thing he has taught her is self-defense. And the training montages are like if John Wick was mixed with Rocky IV, and it's resulted in a 16-year-old savage. And every night he goes through their main rule, that humans are not to be trusted, and if she sees one, to find him. And if there's not time to find him, then she's supposed to hide. And if she can't hide, she's instructed to attack. And Eric's been able to keep Hanna isolated from the human world by donning some of the trees with red paint, and when she sees the red paint, she's not supposed to go past them. But she wants to go past those red trees. And he tells her that I'm worried that the same people that killed your mother will come after you. But she says, well, if we're never going to leave, then why are you training me? And it's because one day he might not be there, and she needs to be ready. But curiosity gets the best of her, and she starts hopping along trees like George of the Jungle, and makes her way to a logging camp, where she sees a boy probably about a year older than her, cutting up some trees. And he starts asking her where she's from, and she points to the woods, but that doesn't deter him at all, like as if that's a normal thing. He offers her a Snickers bar, and she takes that, and he asks her if she has a name, but she doesn't say anything. And she hasn't said anything in this entire conversation up to this point. And we learn that the boy's name is Arvo, and he offers to get help by texting his father, but she grabs the phone. And when he grabs it back, because that's a pretty rude thing to do, she almost breaks his wrist. And this pisses off Arvo, where he gets on his ATV and says, I'm out of here, and leaves, as she's begging him not to tell anybody that she was there. That night when Hanna returns to the cave, Eric asks her where she was, and she lies to him, and he knows it. She then asks who are the people that killed her mother, but he just says they were bad people, and she blows up on him, saying, I have to tell you everything, but you don't tell me anything. And this lack of information is pushing Hanna away, where the next day she once again goes to meet with Arvo. She asks him, are you mad at me? And he says, well, what do you think? But since he's a teenage boy and she's a teenage girl, he's not that mad at her, because he once again gives her a Snickers bar. And then he starts asking some questions, like, what does your father do? And she says, he takes care of me. But he asks, no, like, what is his job? She just takes a puff of his cigarette, although her lungs weren't built for that. And she starts coughing up a storm. Don't smoke, kids. She then asks what's down the road, and he says it's the cabin that me and my father stay in, but after that, it's nothing for about 100 kilometers. And she wants to know what's beyond the forest, and Arvo finds it amazing that she has no idea about anything outside of that forest. And when he asks why that's the case, she says that people are dangerous and not to be trusted. He says, well, not everybody. He then offers to take her to see something cool, and she hops on the ATV, and they travel to a restricted area where they're staring at this giant satellite. And she says, what is it? He says, well, if you call somebody or send a text message to somebody on the other side of the world, this is what sends it. But she's never even heard of a text message before. Not to be deterred, though, Arvo breaks the padlock on the ladder and the two climb up, although they're unaware that the thing is monitored by the police. So as they're lying on the satellite dish and Arvo's trying to make his move, they hear 3 police officers with dogs coming after them. Arvo immediately gives himself up, but Hanna takes off running into the woods. And when she gets back to the cave, she tells Eric exactly what happened, and his big concern is that did they see your face or not? And also, is Arvo to be trusted? And she does say that she thinks Arvo is to be trusted, and she reluctantly says that she thinks that they did see her face. And with back-to-back days of Hanna going past the red markers, he asks, "Do you want to live outside of the forest even though it's dangerous?" And she says yes. He then hands Hanna a picture of a woman, and she asks, "Who is this?" He says, "That's the woman who killed your mother. And if we're going to live outside of the forest, we need to find her before she finds us." And the woman is a CIA operative named Marissa Viegler, and she was the woman in 2003 who was chasing Eric and the woman in the car. And Marissa is currently living in Europe with her boyfriend and her boyfriend's son. And one day, while out with the two, she covertly meets with another CIA operative named Carl Meisner, who lets her know exactly what happened at that satellite dish near Poland. And how after Arvo was caught, he told the police that he was with a girl who lived in the forest. And he's telling her this because he knows that she's always been after Eric Heller. And she tells Meisner that he was last seen about 60 miles from there until he killed his girlfriend and escaped in the forest with his baby daughter. She then asks Meisner to keep it under wraps for now, but if anything comes of it, to let her know first. She also wants to talk to the security detail that caught Arvo. And after talking with that security detail, she sends a bunch of soldiers into the forest, but Hanna heard it coming first. And because of that, her and Eric were able to pack up the cave and flee. And as they're trying to get away, they overhear one soldier's radio where he's directed to kill the man but keep the girl alive. But Eric and Hanna kill him, taking his guns, but then Hanna knows that she is surrounded. And she knows it's only a matter of time before the soldiers that are in the woods catch up to them if they stay where they are. And they know that they have to split up. And right before they go their separate ways, Eric goes through the plan with Hanna that they've had if this situation had ever occurred. She is to send postcards every day from her location, and then she's supposed to go to a certain location every single day and meet at the same time so that they can be reunited. And he also goes through her entire backstory that's made up. And the last thing that he hammers home is that Marissa Viegler is not to be trusted because she lies. Both Hanna and Eric take off in separate directions, and Hanna grabbed the soldier who they killed's radio. And with that radio, she overhears one of the soldiers say that he has Eric in his sights, and he gets the okay to kill him. So to divert everybody's attention, she pops on the radio and says, "Help me." And it allows Eric to escape and get away. And she basically gives herself up, and all the soldiers come to find her, and she makes up a story how Eric left her there because she was too slow and how she's scared. Marissa, by the way, is watching all of this go down from a body cam footage. And she's in the same room as Carl Meisner and asks him if a certain black site is open. And unofficially it is, and she says send her there and label her a terror suspect. As well as a shoot-on-sight policy for Eric. And if anybody asks, Hanna does not exist. Thank you for watching this recap. If you do not see the next one up in the corner right there on the end screen, don't worry, it'll be up shortly. Please consider following the channel. That'd be cool. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't, there's a thumbs down button for a reason.